You know that feeling when you find something that shouldn't exist, something that defies all logic and reason? I had that feeling on a rainy Saturday in October when I found a dusty journal in my dead grandmother's attic. A journal from 1985, a journal full of Halloween costume ideas. And every single person who wore those costumes died that night. All of them. And now, 40 years later, someone's wearing those costumes again. My name is Catherine Morrison, and I'm 32 years old. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in one of those old Victorian houses that creaks with every step and has pipes that groan at 3 a.m. My grandmother, Elizabeth, lived in that house for 60 years before she died this past August. She was 93, lived a full life, died in her sleep. Peaceful. Or at least that's what we all thought. My mom asked me to clean out Grandma's attic before we put the house on the market. Just throw away whatever's junk, honey. Keep anything that seems valuable. I didn't want to do it. I just ended a 5-year relationship, got laid off from my graphic design job, and the last thing I wanted to do was spend Halloween weekend sorting through a dead person's stuff. But Mom was insisting, so there I was, in the dusty attic with a flashlight because half the bulbs were burned out, trying not to sneeze. The attic was full of that kind of clutter people accumulate over decades. Boxes labeled Christmas 1967 and baby clothes keep and taxes 1982 to 1990. Artificial Christmas trees from when artificial trees were made of silver aluminum and looked like science fiction. Vinyl records in disintegrating cardboard boxes. A dress form mannequin with a half-finished dress still pinned to it. That weird mix of nostalgia and sadness you feel when you realize someone's entire life eventually fits into dusty boxes in an attic. I was about to call it a night when I saw a small leather-bound book wedged between 2 boxes of Christmas decorations. Not in a box, just the book, like someone had hidden it there deliberately. I pulled it out. The cover was worn, the leather cracked and peeling. No title, no inscription, just a plain old book that fit perfectly in my hand. I opened to the first page. The handwriting was my grandmother's, that elegant cursive she always had. Date, October 1st, 1985. Halloween costume ideas for tomorrow's party, the heading said. I smiled. Typical grandma to document everything. She had notebooks for recipes, notebooks for gardening tips from 30 years ago. Of course she'd have a notebook for Halloween costume ideas. I turned the page, and that's when everything changed. Because the next entry wasn't just costume ideas. It was a list. A list of names with costumes beside them. Rebecca Morrison, nurse. Thomas Chen, Cowboy. Jennifer Hartley, witch. David Park, vampire. Lisa Anderson, ghost. Meckel Rodriguez, clown. Amanda Foster, dancer. Kevin Walsh, skeleton. 8 names, 8 costumes. And then, in grandmother's handwriting, in red pen that bled through the page, all dead. October 2nd, 1985. May God forgive me. My hand started shaking. I read it again. All dead? What the hell did that mean? I flipped through the next pages. They were diary entries. Detailed. Horrifying. Describing what happened that Halloween night in 1985. A party. A Halloween party my grandmother threw. 8 guests. And somehow, some impossible way, all 8 of them died before dawn. Rebecca was first, the entry began. Fell down the stairs at 11:15 p.m., broke her neck, died instantly. I thought it was an accident. I thought it was terrible luck. But then Thomas went to the basement for more wine at 11:40. We found him an hour later, hanged. Nobody saw it happen. Nobody heard anything. The entry went on, describing each death. Jennifer had a sudden heart attack at 1 a.m. David was found drowned in the bathtub, even though he never went into the bathroom. Lisa just stopped breathing while sitting on the couch. Michael was stabbed with a kitchen knife nobody saw being held. Amanda fell from a second-story window that was locked. Kevin was poisoned by something nobody served. 8 people, 8 deaths in one night in my grandmother's house, and she documented it all in meticulous detail. But here's the part that made my blood run cold. On the last page of this section, Grandma wrote, "It wasn't the costumes. It can't have been the costumes. But I got the ideas from that book, that cursed book I found at the antique shop. The seller said never to use those specific costumes, said they were cursed. I laughed. I thought he was being dramatic. I was wrong. God forgive me, I was wrong. I hid the book. I can never let anyone find it. I can never let those costumes be worn again." My mouth was dry. My grandmother believed Halloween costumes killed 8 people. This was insane. Except there were newspaper clippings glued to the following pages, actual articles from 1985 from the Portland Tribune. Tragedy at Halloween party. 8 dead in mysterious circumstances. Police investigate unexplained deaths at Elizabeth Chen's party. No charges in Halloween party case despite 8 fatalities. It was real. It really happened. 8 people really died at my grandmother's Halloween party in 1985. Police investigated, found nothing. No evidence of foul play. No suspects. Just 8 people dead from causes ranging from accident to heart attack to drowning to poisoning. The investigation was eventually closed as a bizarre series of unrelated tragedies. But Grandma didn't believe they were unrelated. She believed the costumes killed them, and she hid the cursed book where she got the ideas. I turned more pages of the journal. There were decades of entries after that. Grandma lived with the guilt for 40 years. Never threw another Halloween party, she wrote in 1990. I can never risk it again. And in 2010, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I still see their faces. Rebecca lying at the bottom of the stairs, Thomas swinging in the basement. They haunt me. How could they not? My grandmother carried this secret to her grave, and now, somehow, I had it. I closed the journal and was about to put it back when something fell out from the back pages. A newspaper clipping, recent, from this year, from the Portland Tribune, dated October of this year, 1 week before my grandmother died. The headline read, "Costume-themed Halloween party at local art gallery scheduled for October 31st. There was a photo, people dressed in costumes, and the costumes were exactly the ones from the journal. Exactly. Nurse, cowboy, witch, vampire, ghost, clown, dancer, skeleton. The same 8 costumes at a party happening tomorrow on Halloween, 40 years later." And my grandmother had circled the article in red pen and written beside it, "It's happening again. I have to stop them. I have to warn them. Nobody can wear those costumes again." That was the last entry before she died. 1 week before she died. Died in her sleep, they said. Peaceful heart attack. But now I wondered, did she try to warn someone? Did she try to stop that party? And did the stress of knowing those cursed costumes would be worn again kill her? I sat there in the dusty attic with rain pounding on the roof and that journal burning in my hands. Tomorrow was Halloween. Tomorrow was October 31st, and somewhere in Portland, 8 people were going to wear those 8 costumes. And if my grandmother was right, if those costumes really were cursed, those 8 people were going to die. Unless I stopped them, unless I found them and warned them, unless I did what my grandmother couldn't do. I grabbed my phone, Googled Halloween party, art gallery, Portland, October 31st. Found it immediately. The Riverside Gallery. Annual costume party. Theme: classic Halloween through the decades. Come dressed as your favorite retro Halloween character. The event page had photos from planning meetings. And there they were, 8 people, the event organizers, each one assigned a specific costume: nurse, cowboy, witch, vampire, ghost, clown, dancer, skeleton. The same 8 costumes, and underneath each photo, their names: Emma Clark, nurse; Jake Morrison, cowboy; Sarah Winters, witch; Marcus Lee, vampire; Olivia Grant, ghost; Tyler Brooks, clown; Rachel Davis, dancer; Nathan Foster, skeleton. 8 people, 8 costumes, 8 deaths, waiting to happen tomorrow night. I had to warn them, had to find them, had to make them believe me. But how do you tell strangers that they're going to die if they wear specific Halloween costumes? How do you explain a 40-year-old curse without sounding completely insane? I looked at the journal, at my grandmother's desperate final note. Nobody can wear those costumes again. She tried. She must have tried. And maybe that's what killed her. I made a decision. I called my mom. It was late, almost midnight, but she answered on the second ring. "Catherine? What's wrong?" "Mom, did Grandma try to contact anyone before she died? Did she seem worried about anything? Did she mention Halloween or a party or costumes?" Silence. Then, "How did you know about that?" My heart stopped. "Know about what?" "Your grandmother called me 3 days before she died. She was frantic, saying she needed to stop a Halloween party, saying people were going to die. I thought she was confused, getting senile. I told her to rest. I told her it was just a party. I didn't take her seriously." Her voice broke. "I didn't."
Mom, what exactly did she say? She said 8 people were going to wear cursed costumes. She said it happened before. She said she had to warn them. She asked me to help her find them. But Kate, she sounded so confused, so unlike herself. I thought she was having dementia episodes. The doctor said it was possible at her age. Did you help her? No, I told her to sleep. I told her it would all look better in the morning. And 2 days later, she was dead. Heart attack in her sleep. But now you're asking about Halloween and She was crying. Did I ignore her when she needed help? I closed my eyes. Mom, where did Grandma get her Halloween costume ideas in 1985? Where was this antique shop she mentioned? What? I don't know. Why? Please, Mom, think. Did she ever mention a specific shop? A specific book? Long pause. Then, she had this old book. I remember it from when I was a kid, leather-bound, called Eternal Masquerades or something like that. She kept it on a high shelf, said I should never touch it, said it was dangerous. I thought she just meant it was valuable, an antique, but she threw it away eventually, or I thought she did, said she couldn't have it in the house anymore. When did she throw it away? After that Halloween party in '85? The one where all those people died? It was horrible. The police questioned her for weeks. People in the neighborhood whispered about her being cursed. We almost had to move. And right after it all settled down, maybe 6 months later, she burned that book in the fireplace. I watched her do it. She cried while it burned, said she was freeing everyone from its curse. I didn't understand what she meant. She burned it. The book was destroyed 40 years ago. So how were these 8 people planning to wear the exact same 8 costumes tomorrow night? How did they know? Where did they get the ideas? Mom, I need to go. I need to do something. Catherine, what's going on? You're scaring me. I'll explain later, I promise. I hung up before she could ask more questions. I sat there trying to piece it together. Grandma found a cursed book, got Halloween costume ideas from it. 8 people wore those costumes, 8 people died. She burned the book. And now, 40 years later, 8 different people are planning to wear the exact same 8 costumes at the exact same kind of party on the exact same date, Halloween, October 31st. This wasn't coincidence. This was something else, something planned, something deliberate. I looked at the journal again, flipped through more carefully this time, and that's when I found it, a loose page tucked into the back, a photocopy. old and faded, of a page from that original book. Eternal Masquerades, a compendium of cursed costumes throughout history. The page showed illustrations of 8 costumes: nurse, cowboy, witch, vampire, ghost, clown, dancer, skeleton. And beside each illustration, a description. The nurse's curse, falls from great height. The cowboy's fate, death by hanging. The witch's doom, heart fails at midnight. The vampire's end, drowns in still water. The ghost's passing, breath stolen. The clown's demise, blade through heart. The dancer's death, defenestration. The skeleton's finish, poison in veins. 8 costumes, 8 specific deaths. Exactly how those 8 people died in 1985. This was real. The curse was real. And it was going to happen again tomorrow night, unless I stopped it. But there was more text at the bottom of the page. Small print, almost illegible from the photocopy. I held it up to the flashlight. The curse renews every 40 years. 8 souls for 8 souls. The cycle continues unless the original 8 are resurrected through remembrance. Only when the dead are honored can the costumes be worn safely. But beware, the resurrection requires a willing sacrifice. 1 life for 8, 1 soul to break the chain. A willing sacrifice, 1 life for 8. My grandmother knew this. She must have known. Is that why she died 1 week before Halloween? Did she try to be the willing sacrifice? Did she try to break the curse by offering herself? But it didn't work. She died and the party was still happening, which meant the sacrifice had to be something more than just dying. It had to be deliberate, ritualistic, done on Halloween itself. I looked at the clock, almost 1 a.m. Halloween was technically already here. The party at Riverside Gallery was scheduled for 7 p.m. I had 18 hours to figure out how to stop this. 18 hours to save 8 strangers who had no idea they were marked for death. 18 hours to understand a curse my grandmother spent 40 years trying to escape. I climbed down from the attic and went to my grandmother's bedroom. It still smelled like her, lavender and old books. I stood there in the dark, trying to feel her presence, trying to understand what she would want me to do. On her nightstand was a framed photo, her and my grandfather on their wedding day in 1955. They looked so young, so happy, so unaware of what was waiting for them 30 years in the future.
I opened her nightstand drawer. Inside were her reading glasses, a Bible, some bookmarks, and a small box. I opened the box. Inside was a key, old brass, with a tag attached. The tag said, Riverside Storage Unit 247. My heart raced. Grandma had a storage unit? I never knew that. Nobody knew that. I grabbed the key and the journal and ran to my car. Riverside Storage was 15 minutes away. I drove through empty, rainy streets, my mind racing. Why did Grandma have a storage unit? What was in it? And why did she never tell anyone? I got there at 1:30 a.m. The place was automated. Punch in your unit number, scan your key, gate opens. I did exactly that. Found Unit 247 on the 2nd floor, unlocked the padlock with the key, rolled up the metal door, and froze. The unit was full of costumes. Halloween costumes, hundreds of them, hanging on racks, stored in boxes, carefully preserved and labeled. And in the center of the room, on a small table, was a book. Leather-bound, old, Eternal Masquerades. The book she supposedly burned, the book that contained the cursed costume ideas. She hadn't burned it. She'd hidden it, along with every Halloween costume she'd collected over 40 years. I stepped inside, my hands shaking, picked up the book. It was heavy, smelled like dust and something else, something sweet and rotten at the same time. I opened it. The first page had an inscription in language I didn't recognize. Latin, maybe? Or something older. I flipped through. Page after page of costume designs, elaborate illustrations, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. And beside each costume, a description of how the wearer would die.
hundreds of cursed costumes, hundreds of deaths. And my grandmother had kept this book for 40 years? Why? Why not burn it like she told my mother? Why hide it here with all these costumes? I kept looking through the storage unit, found a filing cabinet, opened it. Inside were folders, dozens of them, each labeled with a year: 1986, 1987, 91, 95, 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, 2020, this year. I opened the 1986 folder. Inside were newspaper clippings. Halloween party tragedy, 5 dead in Seattle. 5 people, 5 costumes listed, 5 costumes from the book. 1987, Halloween festival ends in death, 3 killed in San Francisco. 3 costumes from the book. 1991, Halloween costume contest turns deadly, 7 die in Los Angeles. 7 costumes from the book. My grandmother had been tracking this for 40 years. Every Halloween, every death, every cursed costume worn, it wasn't just her party in '85. It was happening everywhere. Every year, different cities, different people, but always the same costumes. Always from that book, and always ending in death. She documented hundreds of deaths. Hundreds of people who wore these cursed costumes and died mysteriously on Halloween night.
And she'd done nothing. Just documented. Just tracked. Just watched people die. Year after year. Why? I stared at those files. Hundreds of death certificates, newspaper clippings, police reports. And that's when I noticed something. Something that made my blood run cold. Every single police investigation was closed within 2 weeks. Every single one ruled accidental death or natural causes. No suspects. No follow-up. Different cities, different jurisdictions, different decades. But the same pattern, the same rushed conclusions, the same lack of curiosity from law enforcement. That's not normal. That's not how investigations work, especially when multiple people die in one night at the same location. I'd watched enough true crime documentaries to know that even when deaths are clearly accidental, there's scrutiny, there's process. But these cases closed faster than traffic violations. I pulled out one file from Seattle in 1991. 7 deaths at a costume party. The police report was 3 pages long. 3 pages for 7 deaths. It listed causes: drowning, hanging, cardiac arrest, fall from height, stabbing, poisoning, asphyxiation. It noted that all victims were wearing vintage Halloween costumes from a themed party. And then it concluded, no evidence of foul play, multiple tragic coincidences. Case closed. 3 pages. Case closed. I pulled another file. Chicago, 2003. 5 deaths. Same thing. Report was 4 pages. Same rushed conclusion. Portland, 2016. 6 deaths. Report was even shorter, 2.5 pages. I started pulling files randomly. Different years, different cities, different numbers of victims. But the pattern was identical. Minimal investigation, minimal documentation, maximum speed to close the case. This wasn't incompetence. This was deliberate. Someone was making sure these cases got buried. I found another journal in the filing cabinet. Not my grandmother's neat cursive. Different handwriting. Masculine. Strong. I opened it to the first page. Log maintained by Harold Morrison. Began April 1970. Harold Morrison. My grandfather. The man who died in 1995 when I was 3. I didn't remember him at all. Just photos. A tall man with silver hair and kind eyes. A retired doctor, my mother always said. He'd practiced internal medicine for 40 years before retiring. Died peacefully in his sleep at 72. Heart failure. Natural. Expected. But this journal was anything but peaceful. April 1970. Made contact with Seattle Division. They've agreed to the protocol. All investigations involving the catalog will follow standard procedures. Minimal documentation, maximum efficiency, closed within 14 days. No exceptions. Protocol. Division. The catalog. This wasn't one person. This was an organization. I flipped through more pages. June 1973. Chicago Division successfully closed 6-subject operation. Total time, 9 days. Excellent work. October 1980. Denver showing resistance. May need to replace coordinator. Cannot have weak links. My hands were shaking. My grandfather wasn't documenting deaths. He was organizing them. He was running some kind of network that killed people on Halloween using specific methods and then covered up the investigations. And my grandmother? I looked at her journals again with new eyes. She wasn't just documenting out of guilt. She was keeping records for him. She was his secretary, his archivist, his accomplice. Elizabeth is invaluable, my grandfather's journal read in August of 1984. Her attention to detail, her organization skills, her ability to maintain composure. I couldn't do this without her. The 1985 Halloween. Grandma's party, where 8 people died. I found the corresponding entry in my grandfather's journal. October 30th, 1985. Tomorrow is the 40th anniversary. Harold wants to do something special. 8 subjects, all at once. Showcase the full catalog. Elizabeth is hosting. She's nervous but committed. This will be our masterpiece. Masterpiece? He called mass murder a masterpiece? The entry continued, October 31st, 1985. Flawless execution. All 8 subjects down by sunrise. Elizabeth performed admirably despite personal distress. Rebecca Morrison's fall was particularly clean. Thomas Chen's hanging showed true artistry. The others went exactly as planned. Rebecca Morrison, the first victim. My grandmother's entry had said, Rebecca Morrison, nurse. I'd assumed it was a guest, a friend. But looking at the name again, Morrison, my grandmother's maiden name, Elizabeth Morrison, who married Harold Morrison. They had the same last name because they were cousins. I'd known that. Small detail of family history. But Rebecca Morrison, I looked her up in my phone, found her obituary from 1985. Rebecca Morrison, 24, beloved daughter of Robert and Helen Morrison, survived by parents and numerous cousins, including Elizabeth Morrison Chen. Elizabeth Morrison Chen, my grandmother's full name before she went by just Elizabeth Chen after my grandfather died. Rebecca was her cousin. She killed her own cousin, or watched my grandfather kill her cousin. I felt sick. I kept reading grandfather's journal. Elizabeth struggled after Rebecca, considered leaving, but I reminded her of the consequences. She has too much to lose. Her daughter, Patricia, her reputation, her freedom. She'll stay quiet. They always do when they have something to lose. Blackmail. He was blackmailing my grandmother into compliance, making her complicit so she couldn't expose him without destroying herself. I thought about my grandmother's entries about guilt, about seeing their faces, about carrying the secret. She wasn't a monster. She was a prisoner who documented her own prison for 40 years. But then why did she keep doing it after he died in 95? I flipped through the files. The deaths continued. 96, 97, 98, all the way to this year. Same pattern, same coordination, same cover-ups. My grandfather died in 95, but the operation didn't, which meant he passed it to someone, a successor. I found it in the very last entry of his journal. June 1995. Health failing.
Time to prepare succession. Trained James for years. He's ready. More brutal than me. Less elegant, but effective. He'll continue the work. Elizabeth will continue documentation. Patricia knows nothing. Better that way. But Catherine shows promise. Detail-oriented, observant, calm under pressure. In 20 years, she might be ready. Watch her. Test her. See if she has the gift.
Catherine, me. My grandfather wanted me to take over someday, to become a serial killer like him. And then I understood. This whole thing, finding the journal, finding the storage unit, finding all this evidence, it wasn't an accident. It was a test. Someone had left this for me to find. Someone wanted to see what I'd do with it, whether I'd run to the police, whether I'd destroy it, or whether I'd pick up where my family left off. I looked at my phone. The event page for the Riverside Gallery party. 8 people, 8 costumes. Those same 8 costumes from 1985, 40 years exactly. That's when I saw it. The gallery owner's name listed at the bottom of the event page, James Morrison. Morrison, my family name. I clicked on his profile. There he was, a man in his 60s, distinguished, silver hair, kind eyes. He looked exactly like the photos I'd seen of my grandfather. I went back to grandfather's journal. James Morrison, my nephew, son of my brother William, raised him like a son. He understands the work, the purpose, the legacy. My grandfather's nephew, my mother's cousin, my first cousin once removed. Family. James was the successor. James had been killing people on Halloween for 30 years using my grandfather's catalog of murder methods. And now he was hosting a party, a costume party, with 8 people assigned to wear the 8 original costumes from 1985, the 40th anniversary, just like my grandfather's masterpiece. This was planned, deliberate, and I was supposed to, what, stop it? Or watch? Or help? I looked at the time. 3:45 a.m. 15 and a quarter hours until the party. I had to warn those 8 people. But how do you tell someone, my serial killer cousin is going to murder you at a costume party tonight? I drove to the Riverside Gallery. It was in the Pearl District, a converted warehouse space. Expensive, elegant, the kind of place wealthy Portland creatives rented for events. I parked across the street and watched. At 4 a.m., a car pulled up. James Morrison got out. Even from a distance, I could see the family resemblance, the Morrison bone structure, the way he walked, confident, purposeful. He unlocked the gallery and went inside. Lights came on. I waited 15 minutes, then walked to the front door. It was unlocked. I pushed it open, stepped inside. The gallery was set up for a party. Tables arranged, bar in the corner, Halloween decorations everywhere, but tasteful, artistic. Black and white photographs of vintage Halloween costumes lined the walls. I walked closer. They weren't just any costumes. They were the 8. Nurse, cowboy, witch, vampire, ghost, clown, dancer, skeleton. Each photograph showed someone wearing that costume. Different people, different eras. But I recognized some faces from my grandmother's files. People who died. The photographs were trophies. Beautiful, aren't they? I spun around. James Morrison stood 10 feet away, holding a wineglass. He smiled. It was my grandfather's smile. Hello, Catherine. I've been waiting for you. My hand went to my purse where I had put my phone. James noticed. No need for that. I'm not going to hurt you. Sit. Let's talk. He gestured to 2 chairs by the window. Against every instinct, I sat. He sat across from me. You found everything, he said. The storage unit, the journals, the files. Clever girl. Took you less than 12 hours, faster than I expected. You wanted me to find it. Of course. It's time, Catherine. Time for you to understand your heritage. Your grandfather saw potential in you. I see it too. I'm nothing like him, nothing like you. Aren't you? You're here, aren't you? At 4 a.m., alone, no police, no backup, just you and your curiosity. That's exactly like us. He sipped his wine. Your grandfather was a genius. Did you know that? He understood something most people don't. Death isn't random. It's artistic. It's scientific. It can be controlled, studied, perfected. He developed methods that leave no trace, methods that look like accidents, natural causes. He documented everything, created a catalog, trained people across the country. We're not killers, Catherine. We're researchers. We're studying the boundary between life and death. You're murderers, serial killers. You've killed hundreds of people. We've helped hundreds transition. There's a difference. There's no difference, my voice echoed in the empty gallery. James remained calm. Your grandfather thought like you at first. She was horrified, wanted to run, but over time, she understood. Some people are meant to die on Halloween. It's tradition, ritual, ancient. We're just facilitating what was always supposed to happen. That's insane, is it? Or is randomness insane? We bring order, purpose, meaning to death. I stood up. I'm going to the police. I'm going to tell them everything. No, you're not. His voice was still calm. Because if you do, you destroy your mother, your grandmother's reputation, your entire family. Everyone will know the Morrisons are killers. Your mother will be investigated. She'll lose everything, even though she's innocent. Is that what you want? I hesitated. He saw it. And besides, you don't have evidence, just journals that could be fiction, files that could be collected true crime research, no bodies, no witnesses, no proof of anything except an old man's bizarre hobby. He was right. I had documentation but no proof of current crimes, historical cases long closed. But you have something better than evidence, James continued. You have understanding. You found the pattern. You see the artistry. You appreciate the detail. That's the gift, Catherine. Not everyone has it. Your grandfather had it. I have it. Your grandmother had it even though she never wanted it. And you have it too. I can see it in your eyes. You're fascinated. I wanted to deny it, but part of me, a dark part I didn't want to acknowledge, was fascinated. The precision, the planning, the fact that they'd done this for 50 years without getting caught. Tonight's event, you're going to kill 8 people? I'm going to help 8 people fulfill their destinies. They don't know it yet, but they're ready. They've been chosen carefully, background checked, medical histories reviewed, personal circumstances analyzed. Each one of them has expressed, at some point in the last year, a wish to die. Depression, terminal illness, unbearable loss. They want to end it but lack the courage. I'm giving them what they truly want. That's not your decision to make. Someone has to make it. Why not someone who cares about doing it properly? I thought about the 8 people from the event page. Emma Clark, Jake Morrison, Sarah Winters, Marcus Lee, Olivia Grant, Tyler Brooks, Rachel Davis, Nathan Foster. Were they all suicidal? All terminally ill? I don't believe you. Check their medical records. Oh, wait. You can't, because you're not in the family business yet. But I can show you. He pulled out a tablet, showed me files. Emma Clark, diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer 6 months ago, refused treatment. Jake Morrison, severe PTSD from military service, 3 suicide attempts in 2 years. Sarah Winters, chronic pain condition, bedridden most days. Marcus Lee, widower, wife died last year. Children want him in memory care. He's resisting. The files continued. Each person had a reason, a justification. They agreed to come to this party knowing what it was? They think it's a Halloween party, but subconsciously, they chose costumes that represent how they want to die. The nurse who wants to fall into peace, the cowboy who feels hanged by his trauma, the witch whose heart is broken. They're telling us. We're just listening. This is psychotic. This is compassionate. We're ending suffering, creating beautiful deaths, documenting them for posterity. Your grandmother understood eventually. She found peace in the work. My grandmother died trying to stop this party. James shook his head. Your grandmother died because her heart gave out. Natural causes. She was 93. Yes, she called your mother. Yes, she was agitated, but not because she wanted to stop the party, because she wanted to make sure you knew about it. She wanted you to witness it, to see if you had the courage to join us. This was her final gift to you, her final test. You're lying. Am I? Why else would she leave everything where you'd find it? The journal in the attic where she knew you'd be cleaning, the key to the storage unit in her nightstand. She led you here, Catherine, to this moment, this choice. I felt dizzy. Was he right? Did my grandmother want me to find this, to choose this? You have until 7 p.m. tonight. That's when the party starts. You can go to the police, try to stop it, destroy your family's name for nothing because you have no proof, or you can come to the party, observe, see how it's really done, and then decide if you want to continue the legacy. Your grandfather believed in you. Your grandmother believed in you. I believe in you. Do you believe in yourself? He stood up, walked to the door. 7 p.m., Catherine. I hope you'll make the right choice. He left. I sat there alone in the gallery, surrounded by photographs of the dead. I spent the day investigating, called Emma Clark using a burner phone, pretended to be from an insurance company, confirmed she'd been diagnosed with cancer, refused treatment. Her exact words, I just want it to be over without my family having to watch me deteriorate. Called Jake's VA counselor, posed as a family member, confirmed 3 suicide attempts, confirmed he'd recently said, I'm tired of fighting, I just want peace. Every single one of the 8 verified. They were all suffering, all ready to die. But did that make it okay? Did that make James anything other than a murderer?
6 p.m. I stood outside the Riverside Gallery. Police station was 3 blocks away. I could walk there, tell them everything. They'd investigate. Maybe find nothing. Maybe find something. Maybe destroy my mother's life in the process. Or I could walk into that gallery, see what really happened, document it like my grandmother did, and then decide. I thought about my grandmother. 93 years of guilt, 93 years of being trapped. She could have stopped it at any time, could have gone to the police, but she didn't. She chose family, chose complicity, chose silent witness. Was I about to make the same choice? I walked into the gallery at 6:55 p.m. James was there, smiled when he saw me. I knew you'd come. The 8 people arrived at 7. Emma, Jake, Sarah, Marcus, Olivia, Tyler, Rachel, Nathan, all in costume. The exact 8 costumes. They mingled, drank, laughed. They looked happy, at ease, like people at a normal party. James moved through the crowd like a perfect host, charming, attentive. At 8:30 p.m., he made a toast to Halloween, to tradition, to finding peace. Everyone drank. I saw it happen. The moment their expressions changed, confusion, dizziness, the drugs were in the drinks. Emma went first, exactly like the plan. She walked to the staircase, climbed to the 2nd floor. I followed her. She stood at the railing, looked down, and jumped. No hesitation.
just like she wanted to fly, to fall into peace. Her neck broke on impact. Just like Rebecca Morrison in 1985, I ran downstairs. Jake was gone. I found him in the back room, hanging from a pipe. He'd done it himself, tied the noose, stepped off the chair. The drugs had just made him willing, made him ready. I heard a thud from upstairs. Sarah had collapsed. Heart attack. Olivia was in the bathroom, drowned in the sink somehow. Olivia, sitting on the couch, just stopped breathing. Tyler in the kitchen, knife through his chest, self-inflicted. Rachel, out the window, fell 3 stories. Nathan had drunk something extra. Poison. All 8. Dead within 30 minutes. All by their own hands, technically. The drugs had just removed their inhibitions, made them do what they secretly wanted. James stood in the center of the gallery, looking at his work. "Beautiful," he whispered. "Perfect. Just like your grandfather would have wanted." He looked at me. "What do you think, Catherine? Do you see the artistry now?" I looked at the bodies. 8 people who'd been suffering, who'd wanted to die, who'd asked for peace. And James had given it to them, helped them, documented their final moments. Was he a killer, or was he something else, something more complicated? I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone. James smiled. "Calling the police?" I shook my head, and instead I pulled out the journal I'd brought, my grandmother's journal. "No," I said, "I'm documenting, just like she did, just like you wanted." James's smile widened. "Welcome to the family business, Catherine." And I wrote, "Every detail, every death, every method, just like my grandmother had done for 40 years. But here's what James didn't know, what he couldn't have known. I wasn't continuing the legacy, I was ending it. Because while I documented, my phone was recording every word he said, every admission, every detail, the drugs and the drinks, the methods, the planning, all of it. And when I walked out of that gallery at 10 p.m., I drove straight to the police station, handed them my phone, showed them the recording, told them everything. By midnight, James Morrison was in custody. By morning, the entire network was being investigated. 50 years of operations, hundreds of deaths, all exposed.
My mother called me crying. How could you destroy our family?" I told her the truth. Our family destroyed itself the moment Grandpa decided killing people was research. The trials took 2 years. James was convicted of 8 counts of murder. Accomplices across the country were arrested. The whole network fell apart. My grandmother's name was cleared posthumously. Evidence showed she'd been coerced, blackmailed, trapped. She wasn't a monster, just a victim who survived the only way she knew how, by documenting. And in the end, her documentation was what brought them all down. I sold the house, burned the journals, destroyed the costumes, kept only one thing, a letter my grandmother had written but never sent, found it in her nightstand, addressed to me. "Catherine, if you're reading this, you found everything. I'm sorry for the burden, sorry for the choice, but I knew you were strong enough, smart enough, brave enough to do what I couldn't, to end it. Thank you for being better than all of us. Love, Grandma." She'd known I'd find it, known I'd expose it. The whole thing had been her final gift, not a test to join the family business, a test to destroy it. And I passed. Today, I work as a victim's advocate, helping families of murder victims get justice. I think about those 8 people sometimes: Emma, Jake, Sarah, Marcus, Olivia, Tyler, Rachel, Nathan. They wanted to die, James had said. Maybe he was right. Maybe they did. But they deserved to make that choice themselves, clearly, consciously, not manipulated by drugs and decades of family evil. That's the difference between murder and mercy, consent, agency, truth. My family never understood that, but I do. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure no one else falls victim to people who think they can decide who lives and who dies. That's my legacy now. Not death, not documentation, justice. Real justice. And that's how I broke the curse. Not of costumes, not of Halloween, but of family, of silence, of complicity. The curse of watching evil happen and doing nothing. That curse ends with me. If you're watching this, if you've heard my story, remember one thing. Halloween costumes don't kill people. People kill people. And they get away with it when good people stay silent. Don't stay silent. Don't document evil thinking you're powerless to stop it. You're not. You never were. I learned that lesson at the cost of 8 lives. Don't make the same mistake I almost did. Speak up. Fight back. End the cycle. That's the only way curses end. Not with magic, with courage.